What's up, guys? As some of you know, I sell these adapters on my Etsy shop. This one's for 3DO, this one's for GameCube. I've also got for some other systems. But I'm constantly getting questions from people who ask me, "Hey, will my random um, obscure stick or controller that either just came out or was made 15 years ago and I still use because I love it, will it work on this adapter?" And I have to tell them, I'm like, I don't know until you plug it in and find out whether or not it works. I can't give you a definitive yes or no. Now, the makers of the firmwares for these adapters, Robert Dale Smith, the USB 4 Maple guys, if we're talking about Dreamcast, all the guys on some of the discords, they do try to maximize for compatibility, but they can't because there's thousands of different controllers, probably tens of thousands controller sticks, etc. You never know. So I'm going to put this video together to um, show you guys how to add a controller that doesn't work to the database so that we can make sure it works in the future. Now, thankfully, Robert Dale Smith, who wrote the Joypad OS firmware, which is one of the many firmwares that we use, um, put this really cool tool together on, and I'm going to show you guys how to use it. So let me show you the controller I'm going to test it on first. This is the Elo Vagabond, and the Elo Vagabond is not made to be a console controller. It's specifically designed to be a tablet or cell phone controller. So you plug your cell phone into it, as so, and then now it's a controller that you can, play your cell phone games on, or Steam Link if you use that, which is what I use. And because it's not really designed for PC or any of the consoles, it has some weird button configs. And it does not natively work with these adapters, which have been designed for various consoles. So I'm going to show you how to add, or how to send the data so that people can add this to the database. All right. So thankfully, the Elo guys added a really cool thing where it has a USB-C port on the bottom, so you can plug it into your computer. So even though it's not designed for anything but tablets and cell phones, you can use it as a standard gaming controller on your PC, and in Steam it does work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug it in using that port. There we go. Now it has just been detected by my PC. And now let's head to my desktop. Okay, so what we have here is we can see on my game controllers menu over here in the top right, it says Elo Vagabond V1 interface. And if I go to properties, we can see the Vagabond properties right here. And I can push buttons and they show up. But things are a bit weird in the config. As you can see, the joypad.ai website, which is the website that Robert made that we're going to be using to figure out the buttons and their interfaces, I have up over here, and you can see it is already detected. Now, what we're going to do is, by default, this direct will probably not be checked. You're going to want to check that. You're going to need this information. And if something may pop up to say like connect or disconnect the controller, you're going to want to select the controller. And so here, I'm going to push the bottom face button down here. And you can see like where X would be on the PlayStation controller, it's instead hitting square. I'm going to be using PlayStation notation because you can't confuse PlayStation notation. So, for instance, Xbox notation and Nintendo notation are reversed. Same thing with Dreamcast. There is no real standard when it comes to A, B, X, Y, but there is a standard when it comes to cross, square, triangle, and circle because only PlayStation uses that. So, I'm going to use PlayStation notation to not confuse anything. So, like if we go to the interface over here, we can see that the button 1, which is the cross, is being read as square. And this is wrong. Button 2, which is circle, is being read as cross. Button 3, where is it? I don't even know where it is. Button 3 is actually being read as the R, I guess this would be R4 button, which is the trigger on the back of the Vagabond. And so, like the mapping for everything is completely different on this controller. So we're going to need to map this out. So I'm going to go to Notepad and I'm going to say, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this HID debug info button. And we're going to start recording information. There's basically, I'm just going to immediately copy these 4 lines right here, paste them into this notepad over here. And then on the next line, I'm going to start copying information. What we have here is the raw input reports. And this is the no buttons pushed. Because I have no buttons currently pushed, this is the input report. So what I'm going to do is just have that information right there, these 5 lines. Then below that, let's put in the horizontal rule. And then I'm going to start recording buttons. So let's start with X. Cross, in the PlayStation context, which would be right here. And we can see that the raw input report is reporting a change from 0, 0 on this trigger to 0, 1. Now these are in hexadecimal, so 0, 1. We're going to highlight that, copy it, and paste. Paste it right there. And I'm going to denote that as cross. Then I'm going to go over to square, where the square button would be. And as we can see, it goes from 0, 0 to 0, 8 right here. And again, I'm going to highlight that, paste that down. I'm going to mark that as, square. Then I'm going to go to triangle. And now we can see that triangle is being read as 1, 0 over here, even though it's highlighting L1. We know that the mapping is very bizarre because, again, this was designed for cell phones. And I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to do triangle. And then let's do that for the circle button as well. It has 0, 2 over here. Highlight. Copy. And paste. And that is circle. And so we can see 0, 1, 0, 8, 1, 0, and 0, 2 right there. Let's close this out of the way. And then I'm going to continue doing that for all the other controllers. So let's say, all the other buttons. So let's start with R1. R1 right here. Now, when I am copying, I'm making sure to hold the button down because it does drop the information if you let go of it. So, make sure to do that. So paste. And this would be R1. Let's do L1. I'm not going to, let me show you R2 now, because R2 is a bit different because R2 is not a digital button. It is an analog button. So what we have here is a button. We have 2 buttons. We have, if we hold all the way down, we'll see that the button is 0, 2 over here. But then we also have this right here, which denotes the analog distance of this analog button. So I am going to put that down and say R2 FF for analog. Sorry, no, you know what? Yes. And then for L2, going to do the same thing. L2 FF analog. And if we compare these 2 lines, we can see 0, 1 is L2 full, R02 is R2 full, with FF here being the analog sensor for R2, and this one being the analog sensor for L2. And of course, we're going to also do the same thing for here. This is the the hamburger button. You know, it's the hamburger button, the 3 bars. And let's copy that down. And we're going to call this the start button. And we also have the 3 dots right there. And we're going to call that the select button. Now, the ELO Vagabond has actually a whole bunch of extra buttons here. So if I hit this button, this specific button is a bit harder to trace because this button is something called a negative edge. That means that this button does not activate when you push the button. It activates only when you release the button. So I will not be able to, simply hold the button down and copy this. Oh, wow. Actually, I did not realize that. Oh, okay. So if I hold the button down, it actually highlights a different button. Huh. All right. So let's just tap it lightly. And if I pay attention, I can see that this one right here is momentarily going 8-0. So I'm just going to copy that and say, and manually type that in 8-0. And we're going to call this one the ELO button single press. I'm sorry, momentary. And then I'm going to push and hold the button. And we can see that that actually now has a new button that I did not know it did. I just learned this right now. And I'm going to call this ELO button hold. Now we also have the screenshot button right here, which is also a negative edge. On release, it does 5-0 instead of 8-0. Does it have a hold function? It does not. Okay, but we know that it does have a function there. And we're going to call that screenshot. And we know it is momentarily 5-0. So I'm going to write that down as 5-0. And I completely screenshot. There we go. And now we have a whole bunch of other buttons to do. So I am going to turn it over. I'll get into the analog in a moment. Those are a bit more complicated. So we have the L1 right here. I'm sorry, L4 right here. R4 right here. So I'm going to record those. So this one is going to be R4. Then we're going to do L4 right here. Okay, turn it back over. I completely forgot we also, okay, now let's do the analogs. The analogs, actually, no, let's do the D-pad first. D-pad's easy. Let me just rearrange this so it's neither. Whoops. Okay. And let's go to D-pad. So let's start with D-pad down. As we can see, this right here, let's copy this right here and call that neutral. Now let's go down. So instead of 0.8 being on, now we have 0.4. Oops. and that's down. Let's go left. Let's go up. And finally, we have right. So we can, if we want to reorder this just so it's in order, we've got 0, 2, 4, 6, and 8. 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, and that is up, right, down, left, and then finally neutral. We can actually reorder this as well, but I mean, there's no real reason to be reordering these. You don't have to if you don't want to. Okay, so now that we have that information, let's get into the complicated parts, which is the 2 analog sticks. Now, the 2 analog sticks, let's turn the info screen off. We can see that they work. But getting the information from them is a bit tougher. So first, let's try to push down on the analog stick as neutral as possible to get the R3. And we know that we can see that R3 is 4 right here. Let's ignore these 4 hexes right there and look only at this hex right here. There we go. And I was able to copy that. And that is R3. Let's do the same thing with the L button. Try to keep these 4 numbers at 0. L3, and we can see the 2, 0 right there. Now, for the analog stick, we have these 4 buttons. Sorry, these 4 hexes. And these 4 hexes basically gauge the 2 axes. So, writing these axes down, let's put some space for it right here. And let's start with the right analog stick. And we pull it all the way to the right, making sure that it's directly in the middle so that we know that this one is for the horizontal, this one is for the vertical. So let's try to make sure that the horizontal or the vertical is neutraled out. So we're going to call this R stick right full. And now let's do the same thing going left stick full. I'm sorry, R stick left full. This is L, also R stick left full. And we can see it goes to FF to 7F and O1 to 0. And this is full negative and this is full positive. And then we do the same exact thing for the vertical. And so here we have our stick up full. Having a problem typing because I'm doing this all, kind of askew so that I can get this on camera. All right. And this is down full. Our stick down full. And then we need to do the same exact thing for the left stick. And so as we can see that these 4 control the right stick, these 4 control the left stick. So let's try to, there we go. And so this right here will be left stick, left full. left, L stick, right, full. So go down, up, I mean. And finally, we have down. All right. And this is all the information that we use to this is everything. This list right here is all the information of all the buttons. I believe. Is there any button I am forgetting on this controller? I've got the ELO button, the screenshot button, start and select, L's and R's, the 4 triggers. I believe that is every button. And so, now that I have this button, I can go to Discord, go to the Joypad server. That's one of the servers. I'm going to go to controllers, and I'm going to post this information for Robert. I already posted it over here, so I'm not going to post that again. I'll do the same thing on the Pico 2 Maple Discord, and then I will also go to the USB for Maple forums. Right here, there's the thread. I've already posted this here as well. And so, I'll post all the information, and then the various people who make this firmware will do their best, because they're awesome people, to add support of these of this controller to their various firmwares. And then once it's in, I just update the firmware, and then boom, your adapter will support the controller, hopefully with the correct button mapping. If it doesn't, you just come back and they will try to fix it for you. Anyways, that's how easy it is. You don't have to buy any external hardware anymore. Like when I was doing the USB 4 Maple, I had to buy an FT232 RNL device, pretty cheap. It's only $15. So, but there was some knowledge you need to know. Actually, it wasn't this cheap, because I forgot I had to have a Raspberry Pi plugged into it, I think. I don't remember. It's been a while since I did it. Yes, I need it. Yep. So, but this new website that Robert put up makes it very easy. Anyways, peace out.